This is Kevin Ellerton from Meditation Magazine. How's it going?
Oh, yes. Great.
Good.
Great. I had a couple of interviews today, and it was one in Spanish. They came from Spain, so
Wow.
I speak Spanish, so they were surprised about it. So I did the podcast in Spanish, and it was nice.
Yeah. Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah. How many languages do you speak?
Oh, quite some.
That's awesome.
Quite some. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Not more than regular.
Yeah.
People are. It's simply if you open up your interest for learning languages, and then every year, every day is an opportunity to learn more. That's what I did.
Yeah.
So I got in about 10 languages.
Wow. That's
And
amazing.
I don't stop. I just like to, when a child is young, and you put them in 4 months in a place where they speak a different language, they are communicating.
Yeah. It's inspiring to me the way that you use your mind to continuously learn things as you go through life, and to use your mind in such a way that you're able to control the responses of your body that most people can't. It's been inspiring to me since I first learned of your work and started practicing your method. And I'm excited to ask you some questions now. So before we start, is it okay if I record this for our podcast?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Of course.
And I'm here with David Khaydatov, who also is going to be asking some questions as well. He's also a big fan of yours. Say hi.
Hi, Wim. It's an honor.
Hi. Hi, David.
Yeah. Okay, so the first question that we wanted to ask you is, and I know you've told your story many times, but I want to be able to give our viewers some context. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got involved in cold work and how you got into this whole path?
Yeah, little by little, it's becoming more intriguing and deeper and explained and scientifically endorsed, and I'm really charged. Wait a minute, my baby wants to, my 2-year-old wants to come to me.
Wow.
Hello. Nanny. Hey.
Hey, baby.
So, yeah,
Hello. So you have a 2-year-old now? That's actually
when
amazing.
I was young.
Are you
What?
So you have a 2-year-old now. How many children do you have so far?
6.
6 children. That's amazing.
The oldest is 36 and the youngest is 2 years old.
Wow. It's spans generations. It's pretty amazing. So tell me how you got into this work that you do, where you go into the cold and use the mind over matter kind of technique.
Yes. I got into the cold when I was actually young. First experience in the cold was when I was 7 years. I was out playing in the snow, and I fell asleep. I fell asleep while playing. Nobody was around, and he found me hours later. And I was into dying at that moment, like into hypothermia. But that was my first experience. Second one, when I was 11 years. I just, in the wintertime outside, sat somewhere, and if they wouldn't have found me, I would have died also. So they I woke up in the hospital then, and there was nothing wrong with me, only, the cold. The cold has something with me, and that always has been. Only I was not aware of that until when I was 17, when I got for the first time into with the snow outside, just fallen snow. I found it like intriguing, and I went out and run barefoot for an hour, longer than an hour. I came in and my feet hurt, but not while I was doing it. When I was 17 and a half years, I found myself for the first time going into cold ice water. And that felt like an answer to my searching. I was a young man searching for something else, deeper, further, and where it is, I don't know. I was been always guided by intuition. So it got me into the cold water, and from there I began to do it every day, and that's for many years, like decennia, before I came in contact with a newspaper one day. That's like 25 years later, wherein I developed all kinds of breathing techniques. Because the first thing you actually do when you go into ice cold water is a deep inhale. And so you learn the value of the biochemical change done by deep breathing, and that I took on consciously back home. I disconnected it from the cold water, and so were new breathing techniques born, wherein I brought myself in different states of consciousness through just breathing deeply and manipulating the breath. So all that I've been doing for many years alone, until I found myself with a newspaper one day, and it got out in the newspaper, and from there, television was on my doorstep for the coming. Wait a minute, my baby is getting into a music instrument. So I got into a television from there, and then television is about can you also do this? Can you do this? And then very soon I was doing Guinness World Records for challenges on the TV, and that caught the eye of the scientists, because at a certain moment scientists were saying what this man is doing is actually not humanly or physiologically possible, but he's a man and he is doing it. Let us investigate upon him. And they began to investigate upon me, and they saw me doing things stated in scientific books impossible by human will to do. So then they began to, maybe this man, me, is able to be injected with a endotoxin, a bacteria. That's a controlled experiment, and that bacteria normally makes people sick. See what he is capable of, because this man is saying that he is able to influence deeply into the immune system, and that was unheard of in science, unheard of in medical science, in the literature. So they gave me the bacteria injected, and by their surprise, I was really able to beat the inflammation, the inflammatory markers caused by the injected bacteria. I was controlling the immune system deeper than ever before was known by science humans are capable of. And from there, they began to say, yeah, you are into the autonomic nervous system that are considered to be outside of our will and inside of our will. No, you are an anomaly. That you are the Iceman. You do feats and challenges and extremes of cold. Nobody else is able to do that. And I said, no, everybody is able to do this. Only they have to awaken towards it. And with that comes a deeper understanding and a deeper control by human will, at human will, over their body. And that means mind over matter, or psychology over physiology, or brain over body. And that now is known. You know, you guys know the placebo effect in science. That is the mind is doing, if you get injected with a bacteria, and then because of your mind thinking that the bacteria is injected, you are activating adrenaline, trying to get rid of the bacteria. That's the placebo. Now, what I do is showing the secret behind placebo. I show consciously being able to control the mind to deal with activating deeper systems thought of accessible or being able to be activated at will by humans. Now, if you talk, for example, meditation is an art to go deeper with the blood flow consciously into the deeper parts of the brain. That is the goal meditation. That is to bring the blood flow past the conditioned thinking brain in deeper parts of the brain, which is the limbic system, and ultimately the brainstem. Now, what I have developed is been compared to meditation. People who've been doing, say, 4 hours of mindfulness a day for years, they are not able to activate the deep areas of the brain, which I have shown in brain scans. And now I say this is possible for everybody to do. And as I'm talking enlightenment, I was sitting in the dark, and my child is turning on the light here, and I like it nice and slow and easy and kind of dark. And then he comes with all this melatonin being activated. So it was a little intervention of my little child.
Wow.
Thing is, meditation and all the power of our mind suddenly has come to our consciousness as something tangible, a neurological muscle, not something abstract. We are able and capable to bring not only deep peace, but also healing and euphoria to our consciousness. Consciously being that. At the same time, simultaneously, I'm trying to control my baby, turning the light on and doing this and doing that. Now he's following me all around town. He's lovely.
Well, the baby adds
I
a lot
must
of
be
atmosphere.
like a bee, like honey, because he follows me like a bee.
He adds a lot of atmosphere to this interview. I think it's nice. It's not so dry as an interview when you have a baby running around. It's kind of fun, a fun element.
It's the real life going on here.
Yeah, exactly. So what you were just talking about, you know, your whole journey through being in the cold and finding the breath coming from, you know, the shock of the cold, finding that deep breathing, and then over time seeing how it affects your mind and how your mind affects your body. Do you feel there's an important connection between mental health and physical health? Does one affect the other? Do they affect each other?
Yeah. They say in corpore sano, spiritu sano. It's from the old Romans, and they had these hot baths and possibly old cold baths. And I recall that the old Greek, great philosophers also took cold baths. And a cold bath is actually learning how to deal with stress. You see, and stress is the most negative trigger for our bodies when it comes in passively, and we have not the real means, the mind-body connection to deal with that. If we live in a comfort zone constantly, then stress, daily stress, can come in many ways: bacterial stress, biological stress, emotional stress, mental stress. It is all stress, and that ends up in cell biological stress. Now, if we don't have our bodies primed to deal with stress, then all that stress, of course, has negative results. And what I teach people is how to learn by going into the cold, going into breathing exercises like hormetic exercise, positive stress-induced exercising, to learn that at a certain moment that the mind, solely the mind, is able to deal with all the stress, being able top down to regulate our body. We lost that. We lost that because we constantly live in a comfort zone behavior, and that behavior is like a non-stimulative behavior towards our stress mechanisms in the body, related directly, of course, to our nervous system, which ends up in our brain. And that has never been exercised. And thus, the daily stress suddenly that becomes oxidative. It becomes like transforms into inflammation. And then if we go to the cell, because I'm doing all these studies now, right now in San Francisco, for example, dealing with top researchers on the DNA. So what happens with the comfort zone behavior where we live in, destimulated from natural stresses, is that the cell mechanism isn't protected. The protective shield around the cell is not activated. Thus, the daily stress comes in like oxidative stress and inflammation, and it messes up the genome expressions, the telomeres, that the relationship with longevity and the quality of life, and a whole lot more. The healing processes, energy processes in the mitochondria, and all is being how do you say, negatively influenced through oxidative stress and inflammation because of the lack of the protective shield around it. Those are heat shock and cold shock proteins. They are not there. And what I show is how to activate them. And with that, we get a cell which is not bothered by inflammation nor oxidative stress, and you get a healthy building stone of life. And you are in control. And only then comes the mind in. The mind is able, with a right body, with the right cell mechanisms, to influence. Because we live here with a will, with a purpose. We don't live here just to be like lower organisms. We got consciousness. And with that consciousness, we can alter genetical fixed how do you say, modulated genes through our predecessors, our ancestors. They are within our genetics, and we are able to improve that, to free it, to free where the predecessors haven't been able to bring solution to only as far. And this is, we have inherited that. For that, we meditate. Like meditation, like you go deeper within. You free something, you become a better person. You free the predecessors' captivated, encrypted genetical codes. And that sounds like hocus pocus, but I tell you, I'm doing the studies right now. So I went first into nature because I wanted to go deeper, and it wasn't in the books what I was reading could not meet my demand from deep within. So I went into nature and I exposed my body to learn in nature. How far can I go? How far can my mind go? And that really is a lot further than we thought possible. They thought I was a crazy man. And yeah, the only thing is I'm still bloody fucking crazy about life, because that's what we should feel every day.
Yeah.
Happiness, strength, health, the spirit, spirituality. Yeah, like good wine doesn't need a label. Good life doesn't need thinking. It doesn't need labeling. And I want to do this and that. I just feel bloody great. And that bloody greatness I want to bring to the science, because if I begin to talk like this to the world, they say, you shut your mouth. What are you saying? What are even my mother said, you think you got the wisdom for rats. And she was also partly right, because I respect my mother. She always said, act normal, that's crazy enough. And okay, that was when I was young. But I still had this deep demand. So I went into nature. I went into nature and exposed my body in many, many ways. And I found out truths and physiological depths that are not in the books written about, and scientifically stated impossible to do, so-called. Then I met with the scientific world, and I began to show that where science has big problems regarding, for example, human control over the immune system, human control over the inflammation, human control over, say, depressions, and all that, and the DNA, and going into the deepest part of the brain. They had no, like it was stated, you cannot do all this. And I'm showing categorically, one by one, how to get into the deepest part of the brain, control, how to get into the bone marrow, how to beat inflammation, how to beat depression, how to get into the deepest of the immune system, the endocrine system, and all those things. And that it will cause eventually what I'm teaching, what I'm learning, and I put it to the brink, I put it to the test all the time with scientists. It will lead up that nature knows where we have problems. It has got the solutions. I come from nature, and I just show what I can do, anyone can do. So we are bound all to be delivered, and I will do that. A choice, a non-dogmatic choice. You want to be happy, strong, and healthy? It's here. It goes paired with the control, a much deeper control over the immune system, endocrine system, vascular system, the mind itself.
That's awesome. So
that's where I am at. For that, I meditate like an eagle on its prey.
That's awesome. So, do you ever get sick?
No.
Never. When was the last time you were sick?
No, almost ridiculous, almost laughing. I get sick hearing the question. Yeah. That's not a metaphor. No, of course. I'm a man on a mission, and I love to talk about this endlessly all the time. I believe in this. Not only this has to get to the surface, and for that, I thank you for this interview, because then we are able to bring this to a lot more people who are like I was looking for things. I was a searcher, a soul searcher, and I couldn't find it in the books. Let me tell you, what I got is not from the books, it's from nature itself, and I put it to the test all the time. I want more and more critical professors, doctors, doubting me than putting me to the test. Because I know what I know is not in the books; it's the truth from nature.
I've seen the videos and the studies about they injected you with the endotoxins, and I've seen it, and it's very amazing. I've been watching those for a long time. For me, I'm just like a normal human, So I'm right now recovering from, I had a head cold and a sinus infection over the past week, and it was not very pleasant. Do you think that if I was using your method more consistently, that I could have avoided this? And do you think that I should maybe not even need to get a flu shot this year if I practice your method more?
Absolutely. 100% score, yes. No doubt about that. And they should get me to the, into general healthcare, regular healthcare. Because the natural power of people is far bigger than, it's like non-used. If you don't use it, you lose it. This is the way it goes in evolution. And what we are doing is fast going into so much conditioned comfort zone behavior that we are destimulating. It's like a muscle. If you don't train the muscle, it becomes weak. So I found the way how to activate and to train deeper mechanisms with inborn mechanisms like the vascular system. For example, vascular system, cardiovascular system related diseases is killing millions of people in the West all the time. And I tell you, if everybody would take just a cold shower a day, then it would be tackled.
Wow. Mr.
And to understand it is simple.
That's awesome.
The cold shower, it trains the vascular system, millions of little muscles. It's like 2.5 times the world is within us. And if we take a cold shower, that is like meditation, like strong meditation, a medicinal meditation. Because you got to be here and in the now. You got to be not thinking, but being.
Right on.
There you are. And with that, you get in directly, you shoot into the depth of your brain. Because there is no talking over there. When you go in the cold shower, there is no talking, there is no thoughts, it's just surviving. And what happens is that the survival part of our brain begins to work, which is also the healing part of our brain, which is the hypothalamus, the amygdala, the periaqueductal gray hemisphere, the cannabinoids, the dopamine, the anything that is being trained at that moment. And it goes by blood flow. So the blood flow is trained through the vascular system. Millions of little muscles are being activated and stimulated through a cold shower.
I use cold showers every day.
Yeah?
Yeah, because I actually have an autoimmune condition. I have inflammatory bowel disease, and I discovered you after watching the Vice documentary. So I began utilizing the cold exposure as part of my way to counteract the inflammation from my autoimmune condition. But I was wondering, I'm sure in the beginning of your journey, a lot of people probably had a lot of skepticism about your methods. At this point, you have so much data backing you up. I just wanted to know, how did it feel when people kind of didn't buy fully what you were saying before all the data, what it was like to if that was a problem that you encountered?
I was like a hermit, like a man practicing on his own.
Okay.
Because what I was saying was like strange, out of the normal, and that should not crazy, strange, things like that. So that makes you shut up. That makes you not even talk to the people. Only when you get a little bit deeper with people, you begin to talk about your beliefs and your practice and all that. But then, once I got in contact with that newspaper, as I told you before, is when the television suddenly showed interest, and I began to do all kinds of feats in the cold, and I caught the eye of a lot of people doing, diving under the ice for 50 meters, 60 yards, 70 yards, and then climbing Mount Everest to the death zone in shorts, running marathons beyond the polar circle and in the desert, and staying for hours in tanks full of ice. That caught the eye of so many, and that began. First, they thought I was like crazy. I'm never going to do that myself and all. But then science came in. And with the science, people changed. People began to look into it, and so not only credibility, but I made it into a method, and that method is accessible and effective because I showed. Whereas in science it was stated it is impossible to influence or control the how do you say the autonomic nervous system. That was until I showed it in a comparative study with a group of people. It was stated this is not possible by human will. So I stated that within a comparative study, that people just in a couple of days were able to enter and control the autonomic nervous system. And that was, that's a fundamental change. Not only it got into the best of papers, it got to change the books in the university about what we as humans are capable of if we only expose ourselves on a regular basis and gradually to cold, for example, and breathing techniques,
Right.
and that was unheard of. So
I'd like to
that
ask
got
you a
to
little
the
bit,
people.
and I'd like to ask you a little bit about the breathing method. So I've been using it for about a year now, and just on and off, and it's pretty amazing. I always like that feeling that I get afterward. I feel very charged up, and sometimes lightheaded, but it feels really good. The way that your method works, you have a little bit more of a technique. You know, it's you inhale deeply and then you exhale quickly, and you inhale deeply, exhale quickly. You have these retentions where you hold the breath out and hold the breath in. And I just wanted to know, is it really just about hyperventilating and hyperoxygenating your blood, or does the exact method make a big difference? And my question is basically, if you want to be able to communicate your method very quickly to somebody, could you just say it's really just about hyperoxygenating your blood, taking as like getting really big breaths in and out really fast, and then just getting this hyperoxygenation, or is it really important to do the method exactly?
Of course, you should. Don't first of all, don't make it too complicated because it is not complicated at all. It's very simple, and it's not hyperoxygenating nor hyperventilating because hyperventilating is like condition. It is more hyperalkalizing the blood. If you alkalize the blood, then there is no carbon dioxide trigger on. It's not there. And it takes a long time for the carbon dioxide to build up again. What happens with the body? It's not breathing. First, there is a lot of oxygen, like 100%, not only 100%, which is actually sort of normal, healthy. It also now gets into the lymphatic system. That was unheard of. People still do not know the finesses really of the breathing, but let me explain it briefly. So what we do is alkalizing the blood deeply, even into the lymphatic. That means the deepest of our systems. That was unheard of. Now, when you alkalize the blood, then the carbon dioxide is blown off, and it's very low. And the carbon dioxide is there for that's the trigger to breathe. If the trigger for breathing is not there, you don't need to breathe. That's logic. There's nothing going on in that state with your body because it's alkaline. Alkaline is the opposite of being acidic. That is alkaline. And that if the body is in the alkaline state, it's nice. It's okay. You feel maybe a little bit dizzy or this or that, but there's nothing wrong with that. What now happens is a lot. What happens is because we do not breathe, and our conditioning is very much related to action, to breathing, to hold a sympathetic nervous system activity, which is related to breathing, to oxygen, because that's needed for combustion. And it's always on, always on. The adrenaline is always on. The cortisol is always on. This is where we live in this society. On. And how to get it off? that is never been done. And that's why a lot of people burn out. They get autoimmune diseases, deregulation of the immune system, eventually leading up to cancer. And all that is because we are too much on. And with that too much on, there's too little energy. And there is no repair, no rehabilitation. For that, namely, you need the other side of the nervous system, which is not the action, but is the peace, the rest, the rehabilitation, restoration. So we go from a sympathetic nervous system to parasympathetic nervous system activity. And that's being done when you do not breathe. When you do not breathe, it's such a prolonged time as we make the body, prime the body with this carbon dioxide trigger blown off, carbon dioxide going out through these 30, 40 breaths. And then you exhale and you hold your breath for 1 minute, 90 seconds, 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes without training. That means we have an inborn capacity to control our breath, to control our chemistry in the depth, and learn to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Complete rest. That's why we feel so peaceful when we are just without breath.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing.
That is very good for repair and restoration.
Yeah.
Another thing is, because you do not breathe, the primitive brain, who acts on, is like action, reaction, like the reptilian brain, when it's warm, begins to move. When it's cold, it is immovable and all that. Reptilian is like reactive. It's there where also is the oxygen parameter. When you do not breathe, it is related to oxygen parameter, which is then activated because you don't breathe. It says, hey, you're not breathing. We need to survive. Adrenaline shoots out through the body and resets the body. It reboots the body. And that is a great thing because it cleanses the body. What happens in the bone marrow, up till the bone marrow, the stem cells are activated, damaged cells are recycled, and cancer cells are being annihilated, killed. And how far? This is something that should be studied of. Yeah. Instead of pills and medicines and all kinds of therapies, etc., we should just resort to deep, deep breathing, like any other animal in the world who haven't got any pharmaceuticals or hospitals or therapies. Yeah. They just withdraw and heal themselves. Yeah. And this we can do now consciously because we have a human brain.
Yes,
and let me tell you now that
I think it's been a lot of study has been going on recently, especially since you've been on the scene. We've seen a lot of more study of this and of meditation in the same way. So you're saying deep breathing can be healing. So in the same way, we see in the United States, there's a lot of studies of meditation as an alternative therapy to the Western medicine that we have now. And your method really, it reminds me of certain types of meditation. For example, in India, they have pranayama meditations where you're controlling the breathing. You're doing sometimes very fast breathing, like the breath of fire, and you're doing these sort of techniques similar to what your technique is. So what I want to know is, did you practice these types of meditation before you figured out your technique? Is it based on a certain type of meditation, or did it just come naturally to you? And if it's based on a certain type of meditation, what kind of meditation is it based on?
If I just look only at the breathing, type of breathing, which I actually learned not from books, but once again, when the first time I went into the cold water, you know what you do when you go into the cold water? Yeah. You breathe deep. I learned to cultivate that there from. The cold is my teacher, I tell you. But the searcher that is even more important. It is the consciousness, the deep consciousness. I wanted to work on the neurology of my brain, the seat of my mind. Only the books didn't tell how to do it. And if you look at the old sutras of Patanjali, it's of 1200 years ago. If you talk about pranayama yoga, then you talk about all the vajus from Dhananjaya, Devadatta, Krikara, Apana, Prana, Udana, all those vajus, how to control that, to get into the Susumna via the Ida and the Pingala, the control of left and right into the central way up to the brain. So that is sort of the Kundalini comes up, and then you get into the Sahasrara, the chakra. I know all that, but it didn't get to me. It only got to me when I began to go into the cold water. That really woke up this connection, deep connection without words, knowing this is it. And from there, I began, like 25 years, to practice on my own. Because everybody was thinking I was crazy, and yoga was not unheard of. Pranayama, what is that? And all that, all these things were unknown in those times when I began. So, to me, I needed clarity. And clarity was being brought by, the seeker becomes the finder. I found the cold water, and the cold water is my teacher. It learned me to breathe, to make a chemical difference through deep breathing, because cold is a real stress. You cannot just figure out lit up a candle and meditate a little and call it meditation, sit cross-legged, and think that the universe is going to change. No, you got to change your brain. You got to change to go from the surface into the deep mechanisms in our own brain, in which we are not schooled in the West. And in the East, I tell you, they now invite me to go to India to teach the gurus over there, to teach the people over there.
That's awesome.
And why is that? Because we got too much into doctrines, too much into books. We need contemporary solutions for contemporary problems.
Yes.
Our neurology is completely different than 1,000 years ago.
I think it's very
10
cool.
times more.
It's very cool that you learned this method from nature. It's said that the ancient gurus like the Buddha and others also sort of learned their own methods from nature, just from being in the universe and having the universe sort of teach them in a certain way. Like the Buddha sitting under the tree and becoming enlightened just from sitting there himself. But I think that, for example, the Buddha, he had come from this sort of Hindu culture before, where he had learned some techniques, and maybe it influenced the way that his method developed. Do you think that, having learned these things before you went into the cold, before you really learned it from nature, do you think that having learned these techniques before, it kind of influenced the way that it developed, or do you think it wouldn't have mattered if you had learned them or not?
If they are around already 1,200 years, and in those days, when I was a young kid, I took on the flow of the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi from the East. I never had seen him. I only saw some pictures and posters and things like that. I was in those times. The hippie movement was on, and the flower power, and of course, yoga. But yoga was like completely misunderstood, and it was too vague. But I liked it. I liked it a lot, because I was into getting away from Catholicism, from our belief systems, because what are they doing, and where is the divinity therein? How do you experience? Is it fear-based? And all those things is like narrowing down the mind instead of expanding the consciousness. I've always been looking for how to expand my perception, my neurology, my consciousness, and to feel alive, a searcher for the soul. I always have been there. And on the way, of course, I've been reading all the books possible. When I was 17, I was done with reading and still didn't get it. So in the end, you need to really practice and simply do it on a daily basis, not from far away books or far away philosophies. And the wisdom is right here, right now, in the moment.
I agree.
Learn to control your mind, and you control the universe. It's there where emotion will take over. It's like being in love with. When you are in love, you don't think. You are in pure bliss. You fly. You fly. So that is what we miss out on. We should have this brain-body connection to shut off and to feel, to experience. That's spirituality.
That's amazing.
Love for life, unconditionally.
I had a question.
I couldn't read that in the books or anywhere, and all these so-called gurus talking on television or in books. It's too far away and too vague. I really wanted to experience. So the cold. In the cold, you don't picnic, you don't think about, because you got to survive. And you learn there in that very stressful environment to find peace within. And with that, you learn to tackle stress.
You previously said that. You previously said that to you, cold is God. I was wondering what thoughts you had on like the role of the cold in our development of certain like religions, faith systems, evolution. Like, what part do you think cold has played in the history of humans up to this point?
If you look at in Buddhism, for example, you have people with temperament. And for them, they have these dynamic meditations. One of them is called Gutumo. Gutumo is how to learn to activate energy strong enough to warm up and to dry wet sheets in freezing temperatures.
Wow!
Now that's a power. Or in Russia, they are used to go and baptize the people every year in the cold, and regular ice bathing and all. It has been around so many years. The old Greek philosophers, they all did it. Real philosophers, real good thinkers, they always know that a stressor a day, a stressful action a day, that turns on the body. That's like common knowledge. Now we have gotten into this comfort zone behavior and controlling nature around us so much that we actually are destimulated from stress. But stress still exists because our boss demands this, and our wife wants this, and our children want that, and from this and that hour I need to go to work, but I can't because I'm in the congestion, and my son is getting sick, and all those things, and we are not prepared to deal with that stress. And I say the cold therein is really relieving us from outside stress coming in, being able to regulate it just by the power of our will. Nobody likes stress, but nobody knows how to deal with it. And I found a way how to tap into the stress mechanisms in the brain at will. And that in the end, passive meditation, just sitting and meditate on, say, mantras or say simply being there. What I've done is like meditation can happen all day. Actually, it's a natural state of our mind to be in control, to not being jeopardized by stress outside, to be in equilibrium all the time, the observer.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I wanted to ask you a question that's relevant right now. We're going into the winter here in New York, and I guess you probably are in the Netherlands also. And I know here many people have what's called seasonal affective disorder, or at least they feel that they do. I used to experience that myself before I started using your method, actually, and I feel I don't have it anymore. The seasonal affective disorder. I used to get very
Correct?
depressed. I used to feel very depressed in the winter and anxious, and it was very gloomy. But now when I feel the winter coming on, I get a little bit excited. Actually, it's an interesting kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
I always say make from the winter your summer.
Yeah,
Then everything will turn out just to be fine.
yes, exactly. That's exactly how I feel about it now. My wife still has the seasonal affective disorder, and many of my friends do as well. So I wanted I saw you had said in one of your videos that I saw from you. You said I do not only endure the cold, I love the cold, and that's something that I've been feeling lately, and I've been trying to communicate to people how to experience that. So I wanted to ask you, what is it about the cold that you love? What sensations, what feelings, what do you enjoy about it? Because if you can explain that, maybe some other people that are here that are suffering from this winter depression, if they can understand what you enjoy about it, they'll start to be able to enjoy those things as well.
Yeah. Know that I love the summer. Know that I love the heat. Know that I love sunshine and tropical weather and all those things. I love it. But when the winter comes, I love the cold. Every morning, I'm in the swimming pool, and during the summer, I'm not in the swimming pool. And during the winter, I'm in the swimming pool every day, and I love it. You know why? Because I go in, everything is gone. I'm only there, just being, just being aware is the ultimate result of great meditation. Just to be there, no thoughts, just feeling strong, feeling that the vascular system is completely on, that my mind is still within very stressful environments. Coming to be one with a very big stressor is like you elevate your experience to great levels. And it's very blissful. Yeah, it's amazing. Every morning it happens again, because every morning it is new, and that makes me so strong and good, and I feel absolutely no doubt during the day, having been in the cold water, where I have met a non-thinking being, part of my deeper self, coming to the surface, saying hello, here I am, together with you. We are so strong. This is life. We enjoy it to the deepest. There we go. No words, just feeling. Besides of that, we tackle our vascular systems symptoms, cardiovascular related diseases. Disease number one, a bad blood circulation takes away this quality of life, of your energy getting down. It's logical that a seasonal effect happens to people because there is lower light coming in, lower melatonin coming in, and the weather is getting colder. Our resistance, resilience, and immune system gets lower. We are more affected by inflammation, getting to our brain, that is depression, getting into ourselves and deregulate genomes, becoming sick, like fever and flus and all those things. Guys, invest into this little bit of cold shower every day, and that's your absolute flu shot against depression, against inflammation. You get more energy. The investment into a cold shower in your daily life gives so much profit. So much profit. It's incredible. It's incredible, and it is scientifically endorsed. So I just give you the non-dogmatic choice to do this. Do it because it is good in too many ways to explain. I can explain books about the benefits of a cold shower a day. and yes, and that's besides of the incredible, crazy, deep feeling, deeper mechanisms being activated within the body and brain coming to you. You get to know yourself in the depth, and it's all coming together. And with that, you see, you will understand and experience the purpose of life itself.
Wow.
It is to be, and to be. And that's this is my speech to those people. Better do it.
Amazing.
Get on with it.
That's
It's
amazing.
great.
Yeah, well, so the purpose of life, you said, is to be, and to be? Just to be?
Yes.
Yeah.
Shakespeare can shake it. It is to be and to be and to be. And now we can consciously do this.
Wow.
We can guarantee to fully be happy, strong, healthy. And there is no doubt about it. I'm showing this time after time in science, and it needs to get to the people because it's about love and strength for everybody. Happiness, strength, and health is there for everybody. And it only takes a cold shower, only takes some deep breathing, learning how to manipulate the chemistry inside, becoming the alchemist. We are born to be the master over our mind, our bodies. It's all there. So I've made it simple. It was not in the books, and now it's getting into the books because I've been in nature. And what was not in the books will get in the books. And then we understand, let me guys tell you right now, within this podcast, guys better take it on because we are fundamentally changing science as it is. And we want to bring this into mental and regular healthcare. That we as people consciously are able to have a complete control over our mind and body. Boom, there it is.
Wow, that was amazing. Thank you, Wim. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview with us. We appreciate your time, and we really appreciate the contributions that you're making to humanity, to science, and to us as individuals. So thank you very much.
Another thing, a last thing, if you have a bowel disorder, soft bowel disorder,
right,
get it to zero inflammation. I have had numerous people with Crohn's disease, ulcerosis, and endometriosis, soft bowel disorders, and they get the inflammation down to zero. You too, okay?
Thank you.
I got it, Wim. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to plug?
Lots of love.
I know you have a book
Lots of love
coming out. Do you want to talk about your book that's coming out before we end this?
Oh yeah, there is a book coming up by Soundscrew. I think it is the title. I think it is the Wim Hof Method, maybe something like that. The Wim Hof Method explained or something. And they are doing a great job. The Soundscrew. They are really the authorities in the world on spiritual books, spirituality with two legs on the ground. So that's where I am. I believe in spirituality, absolute spirituality, or meditation should be done as a natural state of our daily life, all day long. That is our true spirit, our true spirituality. And this new upcoming book will show all that.
Thank you, Wim. Thank you for being here, and we appreciate you. We love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you again, Wim.
Likewise, it's about the love and the strength for everybody. Great work you do. Keep on.
Thank you. All right, have a good night, man. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.